Hello, everyone. Welcome to INO CON Prototype Pitch, where we have selected 4 graduate students from Berkeley, Valencia to pitch their thesis projects for our accredited panel of music and tech entrepreneurs. Today, we have Leslie Zigel, partner of SMGQ Law of South Florida, and holds the chair of the firm's Entertainment Media Technology Group. Mr. Zigel represents clients such as Pitbull, Carlos Vives, the Wailers, and Bob Weir, while also playing bass in his Grateful Dead tribute band Spiral Light. We also have former Berkeley Valencia alumni Jeremy Vaughn, who was the former director of A&R and production for our Berkeley label Disruption, who later founded his artist accelerator label Vivavo Records, and currently the founder and CEO to the direct fan to artist audience relationship app Remark, which empowers creators and amplifies culture through technology. Lastly, our final judge, Ketan Rahangdale, former CEO and founder of PureTalk Technologies, a high-fidelity Bluetooth codec used in 7 generations of iPhones, as well as the Dre Beats headphones, and is currently the CEO and founder of Unity Music, a fan engagement and reward platform connecting artists and brands with their most loyal fans. Today, first up, we have our first pitch, which is a music and production technology and innovation student, Danny Greenberg, pitching his company Juke, an audio-visual gaming app that encourages the co-creation of music between musicians and gamers with the goal to finish a piece of music together in order to advance to the next level. Danny, share your screen and you're up.
Great. Hey, everyone. Thanks, Jameson, so much for the intro. And thank you to all the panelists for taking the time to be here today. Today, I'll be talking about a new project I'm working on, the audiovisual game called Juke. But before diving into that, I'd like to share a little bit about my background and journey. So these days, I consider myself a multidisciplinary creative coder. My background is in molecular biology and computer science. I used to research the origin of life at NASA and spent a few years working in the financial technology space as a software engineer. But I decided to give up the corporate lifestyle to pursue some of my deeper passions, the intersections of music, gaming, and technology. I hope to use my technical background to foster creativity, connection, education, and well-being in our modern world. So now that you know a bit about me, let's talk about the project. The easiest way to explain Juke is to explain the works that inspired it, because at its core, it's a video game cocktail that is greater than the sum of its parts. So go ahead and take out your cocktail shakers and we'll get started. First, add 1 shot of Super Mario Bros., a classic game with simple, fun, and intuitive gameplay that's easy to digest and has stood the test of time. Next, mix in the innovative, interactive musical experiences of the 2000s, the era of plastic music controllers and rhythm games like Guitar Hero and Rock Band. These games broke out of the classical gaming paradigm and inspired a generation of gamers to engage with music, whether through connecting with friends or learning an instrument of their own. Last, let's add the final garnish, the minimal, colorful, emotion-driven aesthetic of indie games like Flower. This way, the visuals and audio will fully immerse the player in the game world and leave them eager to discover the beautiful animations lurking around the next corner. So there you have it, the Juke cocktail. Beautiful to look at, but you're probably wondering, how strong is this thing? What does it taste like? Will it leave me with a bad hangover the next morning? Well, here's the breakdown. It's a cocktail, so it will definitely be fun and relaxing, even for underage consumers. Second, it'll actually make you more creative, and even more so if you drink it with friends. Last, and this one's a real kicker, it will actually aid in digestion, not of food, but of information. It will make the process of learning and assimilating knowledge more social and engaging. Seems too good to be true, right? Well, to be fair, I'm still working on perfecting the recipe. But in the meantime, I invite you to take a sip and see what the Juke universe is beginning to look like. So shout out to Calvin McCormick, who you'll be hearing from shortly, who composed the awesome track you just heard. Now that you've had a taste of this universe that I'm trying to create, let's revisit those benefits that I just mentioned. First, let's talk about fun. Juke is being designed to be an engaging, relaxing, and casual game. It invites the player to focus more on the audio and music than many other visual first games, and scaled difficulty levels will allow it to cater to players of all ages. Next, creativity. Juke aims to take Super Mario Bros. And turn it into a musical instrument of its own. The gameplay is designed such that the musician and gamer can each affect each other. This interplay is reflected in the evolving soundscape and music. In this way, the game serves as a new medium for musicians and gamers to co-create music in real time. Last, education. Juke addresses a pain point that any aspiring musician has faced. Practicing an instrument is tedious and often solitary. What if this experience could be more engaging, and if you could be hanging out with friends while you do it? By putting constraints on the musician, such as staying on key or on rhythm, they'll be motivated to improve their playing skills to win the game. The other player will be a source of motivation as well, since both players will want to improve to reach the next level. So as I mentioned, I'm still working to develop the perfect recipe for Juke. In terms of music for the game, I like the idea of partnering with up-and-coming artists to promote their work and even offer services to help produce it, on the condition that their work could be featured in the game. If the artists also are creating sample packs, these could serve as rewards earned for completing levels that feature their songs. As far as a business model goes, I could see Juke either as a standalone game like Guitar Hero or Rock Band, with new songs serving as paid downloadable content, but I could also see this platform as a subscription model, standing as an alternative to other streaming services for listeners who want to experience their favorite music in a more interactive way. I've even thought about an associated social network, maybe called Jukebox, that would allow users to share song covers of their favorite songs, generative music, and generative visual art that they've co-created with friends through gameplay. I'm very open to suggestions, and I'd be eager to hear if you have any other thoughts on how this could be monetized or made more accessible in the future. Before ending, I'd just like to thank all of the artists who've contributed music to Juke, as well as my advisors here at Berkeley, who have been instrumental in helping to get this project off the ground and gain some clarity on the real-world applications of this project. Also, a huge thank you to everyone behind the scenes of INO CON for making this week happen. Thanks for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Danny. All right, Ketan, I think you have some extensive experience in this sector of music technology and gamification. If you want to kick it off.
Firstly, Danny, very well done. I thought your presentation was very clear. I particularly would love to learn a little bit more about how do you see yourself going to market, and who would you say is your target audience with respects to this venture?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it would depend on the application that I end up diving more into. For education, I think it could appeal to music learners of all ages, adult learners, kid learners, whoever. For the entertainment value, I assume it would cater more towards teens and kids who like playing games like Mario Bros. And for the creativity aspect, that would be catered more towards artists. So it's almost like a new kind of environment to be creating music, like Ableton Live or like any other software, but it's a different way of making music.
And would you say you would go mobile or try to have some kind of mobile app as a primary medium?
I think if it was more computationally intensive for artists, for example, it would have to be a desktop app. But for the entertainment value, I could totally see it standing alongside like a Spotify app, just playing it on the subway or wherever you're heading to, just like a casual experience while you're listening to music.
And we all know how those Gen Zs like their phones, you know. So.
We do.
Yep. Well, excellent job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I know you also are in with the NFTs kind of space. Wanted to add some comments.
Yeah, awesome. Danny, great presentation, very creative. I like the cocktail analogy was fun, but clear as well. So that was great. One question I had for you is on sort of the musical input side. I think we saw some piano MIDI controller in there. What is the input sort of device for the musician? Is it limited to piano? What kind of people can participate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now it's taking in any MIDI controller that you might have, any MIDI input really. So it could be a keyboard, a guitar, really anything that has access to the MIDI interface.
Awesome. And then second question was, you mentioned that it's in real time, but in your statement or answer to Ketan's question just now, it sounded like there may be, different types of user experiences. Maybe the gamer's on a phone, the artist is on desktop, that sort of thing. Would there be an ability for it to be, asynchronous, not in real time? So let's say a musician records a cool song or something like that, and then the gamer can come on later and play that on their phone. Is that something you're envisioning, or is it all just real time based?
I think anything is fair game right now. It's still in the early stages, and I like that idea of having a more, asynchronous kind of model. Maybe it wouldn't have to be always real time, but right now I've been focusing on the real time application for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that might, as launching an app like this, it's always, difficult to create enough content so it's compelling for everyone. So that might be one way of kind of creating a content library so that when people sign up, join the app, they're not necessarily relying on other people being online. There's a library of content that they can start engaging with immediately. But awesome presentation. And yeah, best of luck as you continue building out the product.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Danny. All right, up next, we have our global entertainment and music business student, Sydney Wilkie, pitching her company Studio Poet, an app for songwriters that provides a platform to network, upload, and maintain complete catalogs while easily sharing access to proper metadata with their music publishers and managers. Sydney, tell us more about Studio Poet.
Thank you, Jameson. Let me share my screen here and get all ready. Fantastic. So the rate of incorrect metadata registration is a plague in the music industry, and most artists don't even know what it is. As it stands today, there's over $250 million in counting being held in black box royalties. All of this money and nowhere to go. So that is where Studio Poet aims to eliminate the problem at the source. My name is Sydney Wilkie. I'm the founder of the app Studio Poet. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I hold a bachelor's of business administration from Belmont University in music business and production. And I will soon hold a master's of art from Berklee College of Music in global entertainment and music business. In my free time, I'm a songwriter, a singer, an artist, a painter, a pianist, anything really creative that you can think of. So this is really close to my heart. The music industry landscape as it stands right now and as it pertains to Studio Poet looks like this. There are 40,000 new songs uploaded to DSPs daily, all with their own unique ISWC, ISRC codes, and all writers and publishers have their unique IPI numbers. All of these things make up the metadata of a song that tracks where royalties go to once a song is streamed or downloaded. The music industry overall is a $2 billion industry, with live entertainment holding the largest single sector of the industry. As it pertains to Studio Poet, we're looking at the 5 current publishing deals of traditional single song, co-pub, administrative, and sub-publishing, all with their own different contract clauses to be aware of. The major stakeholders of the music industry, anyone who holds a large chunk of revenue that is created within the industry, like labels, publishers, artists, writers, agents, anything like that. But most notably is the Music Modernization Act of 2018, which was intended to update music copyright law to recognize a new media landscape and better facilitate the legal licensing of music on DSPs. So a songwriter who is a single songwriter with a song with 1 million streams and a traditional publishing agreement will only earn $302 pre-tax on that song that is paid once a quarter, which is not even enough to cover your utility bills. And that's if the metadata is registered correctly and there are no inconsistencies with that. So for Studio Poet, we have broken down our key stakeholders into 2 groups. The main stakeholders being songwriters and publishers. Songwriters create the compositions. It's where copyright begins to exist. Doesn't matter if they're professional songwriters, they do this recreationally, they can both benefit from the app. Publishers are there to exploit this composition. They can sometimes share in the copyright ownership depending on the contract that they hold with the songwriter. Doesn't matter if they're a major or an indie, and they have played a big role in distributing royalties to songwriters. And then our second group of stakeholders is DSPs and PROs. So the digital service providers are the ones that place the music on your major music platforms where you consume it, like Spotify or Apple Music. It's their job to track these streams and distribute royalties either to publishers or songwriters through PROs, which are performing rights organizations whose job it is to collect performance royalties and distribute them accordingly. So the offer of Studio Poet can be broken down into three major categories: networking, organization, and shared access. It'll be a professional networking setting for songwriters to find co-writers either in their area, dependent on gender, dependent on experience, skills, publisher, genre that they write in, whatever you want to set. I've been dubbing it the Tinder for songwriters. Organization will be a cloud-based storage solution to organize and keep track of your own catalog. You can upload existing songs as well as create new sessions within the app. This can mean anything from charts, lyrics, sheet music, demos, stems, Zoom recordings, a picture of a napkin that you wrote lyrics on, anything pertinent to the tracking information of that song. And then most importantly, you can share this access with a publisher or a manager in order to eliminate the incorrect metadata transfer. You do not need to go outside of the app to share all of the pertinent information. It'll go directly to your publisher. And then retroactively, once a song is cut, a publisher can then add to a session royalty statements, ISRC codes, artists or labels that they're working with, contract clauses that may be pertinent, or anything of that nature. So this is a mock-up of the three main pages that I just talked about. All the way to the left is the home page. In the middle, we have our networking site, and then on the far right is the sessions. Very basic mock-up that will be edited as we go along. So the pricing structure, I've dubbed it the 3 creator tiers and the 3 publisher tiers, ranging from free model up to a professional model of signed songwriters, each with their own features going up according to price. And then we will also be marketing to publishers for a publisher to offer this app and service to their songwriters as an added bonus. So I envision the required capital to do all of this to be $250,000. That's broken down to $100,000 for app development, $50,000 for marketing and branding, $50,000 for incidentals and reserves, and then $50,000 for community development. This can be anything from holding, donating to charity, holding conferences, anything that brings the community together in the name of Studio Poet. So for growth, we'll continue to target indie and professional songwriters, and eventually we'd love to include labels and artists because they share in all of this royalties that we've been talking about, and sometimes artists can also be the songwriter, so it's important for them. Eventually, I'd love to partner with either a songwriter coalition or a publisher to continue to tailor support to songwriters and publishers' needs, and then eventually to be able to provide a digital audio workstation through the app to keep everything internal. So overall, our aim is to create an industry standard for the catalog organization, recording and transmission of metadata, and really increase transparency for rights holders in this space. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. What a necessary app all songwriters could utilize to expand their network and keep organized. I think Leslie, this is right along the lines of what your practice specializes in. So I would love to hear some great feedback for Sydney here.
For sure. So Sydney, first of all, excellent presentation. You've identified an issue that only the nerds amongst us tend to focus on, but it's a huge money issue as you see the $250 million in black box, which may be a low number, by the way. And not only is it a black box issue with respect to publishing royalties, you also have issues with respect to writers, producers. You have it in YouTube with respect to user-generated content that's not being claimed. So I think there's a lot of different areas where this is going to be very useful. Let me ask a couple of questions off top. So with respect to the share function of it, where you're going to be sharing, issues, song lyrics, etc., what sort of privacy controls are you anticipating to have in that? Because obviously somebody shares a lyric, if it's a top line writer, you don't want that, to be read by everyone.
Yeah, that's an excellent question and something that I've been grappling with since I kind of started this idea. From from talking to different industry experts outside of my own knowledge, the best I can offer is a detailed and ironclad terms of service that assures our users that we are not selling your data, we are not spying on your accounts individually. And that's kind of all I can really say to that. I think a lot of it would also depend on who we contract to do the cloud storage and where all of that information is stored externally as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think terms and conditions are great, but to enforce them, you have to sue, and litigation is very inefficient and costly. So to the extent you've got controls in place from a security standpoint, that would be important. As far as potential investors, to me, a natural would be Cobalt. Cobalt does have an investment arm. Willard Aldrich came up with a brand new model 15 years ago that everybody in the publishing world laughed at him about it. And today I just heard that Sony just acquired a couple of his divisions. So he's very forward thinking. So, but I think that, the other thing that you may want to look at from a revenue stream is, in addition to this sort of subscriber-based model, where the real money is if you're able to create a way to help these writers find the money. You got $250 million. And so, a small sliver of that pie, makes for a very substantial business. I mean, even if you just got, 1% is $2.5 million. So there's a lot of money that's there. And I think what you may want to think about as an entrepreneur is, this is great to get people together in terms of the community, but also if you can help people find money, that always makes it very valuable and makes it easier to get investors.
Absolutely. Thank you. I hadn't even thought of that, so I will definitely try to include that.
Great. But terrific job.
Thank you as well, Leslie. All right, up next, we have music production technology and innovation student, Philippe Dion, pitching his company, Doosan Audio, a progressive sample pack company where any producer can submit unused musical ideas and generate passive revenue by curating audio samples, VST presets, and MIDI files for the most relevant genres in music. Philippe, tell us more about Doosan Audio.
Hey everyone, thank you so much. I'm really excited to get some feedback on all my hard work. Before I tell you about my company, just a little bit more about myself. Like I said, I'm Philippe Dion. I come from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, with a Bachelor of Arts in Music from McGill University. And I founded Doosan in October 2020, but really fully incorporated it, all legitimized in February of 2021. So what is Doosan Audio? Like Jameson said, it's a sample label, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page of what I mean by sample label. Much like a record label, we put up music, but instead of having a target market that is listeners, we target producers. And instead of putting out albums, we put out what we call sample packs. So we're really in this artist to artist marketplace, and we just can't talk about this space without talking about splice.com. And I'm actually going to use their website just to make sure that everyone is fully aware of what a sample label is, and sort of that you get the lay of the land of the competition that I'm going up against. So here on Splice's website, we have their charts. So these are the current top sample labels on their website. Doosan Audio's direct competition. Then I'm moving to this page where we find these sample packs. This is really the bread and butter of the sample label, putting out these packs of a very specific genre or mood. But where it becomes interesting and where I find that there's an opportunity for myself is with these products, which are VST presets. Those of you who aren't familiar, a VST is a virtual instrument. So a sound designer like me can create a serum patch and sell it in his pack. But I realized that very few sample labels go down this avenue, and even less go down the avenue of creating these MIDI progressions. So you might be wondering, well, Phil, why are you joining such a competitive market, such a market that already exists? It's because I think I found a niche in the market, and I had this eureka moment that made me realize that there's a lot of untapped music, which is actually coming from a sad truth about producers like myself, that we suffer from this disease that I call work in progressitis, right? This is how bad it is for me. Since last year, May 2020, I've started 374 Ableton projects. I've exported 113, and I've released 7 songs. So back in October, when I had this idea and I was looking at my hard drive with all this untouched music, I thought, what if I could increase this release percentage by curating my unused ideas into sample packs? Bringing forward this concept of music recycling. And it became even more exciting because I realized that I wasn't alone. Everyone who produces seemed to suffer to a certain degree of work in progress-itis. So what am I doing with this business? Well, I just want to do a good job to start. I just want to be a good sample label. So I want to offer a high quality, a catalog of high quality audio samples. But like I said before, the other labels aren't doing a lot of presets and they aren't doing a lot of MIDI. So I really want to hone in on that. And most importantly, I want such a wide catalog to eventually cover a wide variety of genres, as most sample labels tend to really hone in on specific niche genres. This concept is actually encapsulated in my business name. Being a native French speaker, the word du son literally means some sound. So that's where my company comes from, and that's what it exemplifies. The second part, like I said before, I realized I wasn't alone. I want to create this platform where these producers can upload their ideas for me to accept or reject. I can then curate these accepted ideas and start releasing these samples. But how am I going to track these producers? Well, I'm going to have to get some money somewhere, right? So I'm going to have to empower these producers by encouraging them, by seeing some money at the end of the line from their works in progress. So it seems pretty straightforward, right? I want a large and diverse catalog, just going to attract some producers. And how am I going to track them? I'm going to make them some money, right? Next stop, Forbes list. Well, not exactly. What I really need to do to get this wheel turning is I need to foster and grow a community of people. That is really how businesses are successful, that people relate to them. And how am I going to do that? Well, I want to connect with these potential collaborators and customers who, very interestingly, for my business, my collaborators and my customers are the exact same people. They are up and coming producers. And how am I going to connect with them? Well, that's through free content, contests, and brand partnerships. So let me get deep into what I've been doing, my strategy for growth. What have I been doing over the last few months to grow this business? Well, to start, to accomplish my first mission, large and diverse catalog, if that's what I'm going for, I got to get cooking. So I've self-produced some packs, and I've also collaborated with other Berkeley students to put some packs out. So my first pack is actually coming out this Friday, called Industrial Filth Volume 1. I also have a traditional Colombian sample pack with a fellow MPTI student in June of this year. And in August, I'm putting out a beatbox pack. So that's what I've been doing in terms of working, in terms of putting out content and growing my catalog. How have I been growing my community? Well, like I said, I want to do these contests, these brand partnerships, and these free releases. In the context of INO CON was actually my pilot test for these releases. I've actually provided the samples for this contest, this INO contest. I got to connect with producers, and most importantly, at the end of the day, I had a pack that was done that I'm going to put on my website for free to hopefully get people into the website for the freebies, and they may stick around for the paid products. Sort of a similar logic, I'm connecting currently with the local Valencia thrift store called La Vespa Roja. I'm going to go in the store with a camera and a high quality field recorder, and I'm going to record the store and basically shoot a little ad for them. But all the music in the ad will be made from samples recorded in the store. In doing so, I have a piece of content that I can put out on their platforms. It helps grow my business by connecting with their customers. And once again, I have a free pack that's ready to go on the website for the releases. So that's what I've been doing. Where am I going next in the next 1 to 2 years? Industrial Filth Volume 2 is well on its way. I want to expand my list of collaborators in and outside of Berkeley. I want this Vespa Roja project to be a proof of concept. It's a thrift store. I think I'd be better off with musical stores to really get that brand partnership going. And I want to approach Splice for a potential release on their website. Ultimately, within 3 years, I need my packs to be out on Splice because they're the leading platform. I need to make this company profitable, and I want to start reinvesting into ad campaigns and promoting this platform where people can upload and lastly run these sponsored competitions. So thank you very much for the intention, and I can't wait to answer some of your questions and get some of the feedback.
Thank you so much, Philippe. I know those sample packs are really top quality, and thank you so much for submitting the pack for INO contest. It was very, very well done. Jeremy, with your experience with labels and working in the studio with artists and producers, I think you would be best fit here for some feedback.
Yeah, Felipe, really clear passion that you have for this topic, and some great examples of product market fit, and cool to hear the things you're working on. My question for you at the beginning would be, are you building a VST plugin, or is this something that you want to make available for other VST plugins? How are you thinking about selling the sample packs?
Great question. I'm not exactly building these plugins, but I'm using the most famous ones currently on the platform, which are Serum, Massive, and Silent. So that's where I'm going to be aiming. I have others that I'm just because I like designing sound. So I have others that I'm selling, but those are really the three that I'm focusing on.
Awesome. Sounds great. And then just one quick question, and then I'll open up to the rest of the panel. How are you thinking about your strategy of reaching out to labels or artists? Is there anything particular you're doing there, or is the main goal just being on different platforms like Splice?
I think in the short term, just because there's a big component of trust, right? For these sample labels, I can't have someone sample a J Dilla record and put it out because I'm going to get in trouble. So at first, I need to establish this trust. I need to get everything legal figured out to really get a good working relationship. So to answer your question, at first, I'm going with my peers and people that I know. But eventually, what I really hope to do with this platform I want to create is I would like actually to have these YouTube ads. And instead of saying, hey, buy my product or buy my masterclass, it's join my team and put out your music and see if we can make a pack out of it. And that is where I think I'll have the best messaging, but I'll need a following, I'll need some packs out, and I'll need some money to get there. So that's why I put that down the line in a few years from now.
Got it. Great. Thank you for the presentation.
Great. Leslie or Ketan, you want to add anything there?
I would just add that, love the presentation, love your passion. I think that from a net profit standpoint, Splice has proven that this is a proven business model. I would ask, is there any concern that, the initial target market may be a little bit too niche? And then the other question I would have is, I'd love to learn, how are you differentiating specifically your business model? I know you said you got to make money to pay the producers. Well, where is that coming from, and how do you see that scaling?
Really, really great questions. To start, I'm going purely off my website to sell. But like you said, Ketan, Splice is such a big platform. I've actually been in touch with sample label owners, and they revealed that they get, she was from the UK, so 10 pence per download versus $25 for the pack. So I can definitely see how Splice is the most interesting model. But for them to accept me and for us to have a good deal, because I heard that they're with smaller labels, they go in a bit aggressive with the deals with exclusivity. I want to have, a solid foundation, and I want to have something to show for, some packs out, some following, some numbers, because right now I'm not there yet.
Well, thank you so much, Philippe, and thank you guys for your comments. All right, so last up, we have another MPTI student, Calvin McCormick. He's pitching his project involving EEG music technology. His prototype is a software system that processes biofeedback data from a brain scan using machine learning algorithms that recognize patterns, generate sound design, and controls MIDI code in Ableton. Calvin, I'm curious to hear more about your project. Tell us about this tech.
Sure. So, hi everyone, how's it going? Let me just dive right into it. There it goes. So basically, it's a suite of Max for Live plugins that allow you to take brainwaves and muscle activity and map it anywhere in Ableton for whatever you want, and beyond Ableton. Right now, it's mostly configured to be compatible with Ableton as a Max for Live plugin, but it could easily be programmed for MIDI CC or external synthesizer sources, what have you. And in the middle of it, it can be routed to a machine learning application, which lets you kind of take the raw data and even the filter data that you have and give it more meaning and kind of derive some more interpretation out of it. So let me show you. Here is kind of the workflow on the input side. You have the raw, you guys can see my mouse, right? Hope. So you have the raw readings from the muscles and the EEG, the brainwaves, and these are sent to the EEG's GUI, which lets them, it's for initial filtering and to send them over OSC. And from there, they can be sent to either Ableton directly or the machine learning application Wekinator. And then here's really the heart of the program. There's 9 Max for Live modules so far. The first 3 over here on the left are just kind of pretty basic mappers. They take the raw voltage from either the muscles or the brain waves and allows you to map them and scale them to any parameter in Ableton. And then you can also split up using an FFT. You can split up the different types of brain waves. And sort of because each one's kind of have different, indicate different kind of mental states. So you can kind of send those to different places as well. Then there's also an LFO generator that, which speed and shape is kind of based upon the different types of brain waves, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and theta. And then over here on the right, there are 2, for more sound design purposes, I built 2 synthesizers. The first one takes the raw voltage and converts them into a synthesizer via additive synthesis. And the other one takes the FFTs of each of the 8 EEG electrodes and converts those into wavetables. And that's kind of a very rich synthesizer that we'll hear in a second. There's also 2 modules down here, which are for routing the data to and from Wekinator. And then using Wekinator, you can kind of decide what you want, what sort of brain states or muscle gestures you want the machine learning to learn. And then you can apply that to, again, anywhere in Ableton. And then I've also adapted a autonomous note AI note generator that is called Piano Genie, the original one that Google created, open source. And this one I adapted to kind of fit in with this one. So I called it Max for Live Genie. And then here's just kind of a sample of the destinations that might be available from that. And you could also map it using some other gear. You can map it to external hardware as well. And any VST plugins you have that kind of sync up with Ableton in a friendly way will also work. So yeah, here's kind of just a basic example of how the FFT synthesizer works. Basically, there's 8 electrodes on this type of EEG, and each one, FFT, if you're not aware, shows all the components of a complex waveform and splits it up. You can kind of see this graph right here. That's the combination of the 8 EEG signals, and then each one goes to a different oscillator. So let's take a little listen. Yeah, and right now that's in kind of drone mode. As you saw, there's an envelope shaper as well, but you can make it more like a regular synth if you wanted to. But that was just as a demonstration. And then over here's kind of more a complex setup where you would send. You have the 2 Wekinator routers, and you would send the EEG signals to the router, which would then let you kind of set up the ports and the amount of smoothing you want to use, and then it would send it to the machine learning, and then there you have to do some other setup that I'm not going to dive into right now because of time. But then you can send it back, train it to do let's say you wanted to see if you were focused or unfocused. Or your eyes were closed or shut, or if you want with the muscles, if you want it to see that you're doing a circle with your arm, you could train it on one of those, and then you can bring it back and send it to wherever. Here I've sent it to the note generator, so you'll see that are going to be modified based on the machine learning classifications. There's the 2 other apps running. Data is moving in and out. And then so over here, the scale and what's called the temperature are being modified by the Wekinator receiver. And so the temperature is kind of how much it will jump. And the scale I kind of made up from happy to sad, in my opinion, for the modes. But you could configure it in a number of other ways. So let's continue. And so the current status, this is definitely a highly experimental research project at the moment. It's not because basically my target audience at this point would be people who own this particular style of EEG and also want to make music, which is not a very robust audience. But I think this shows a really cool proof of concept. And with a few more years of research, I think there's a lot of potential there. What my goals for it really are to kind of two goals: to have a creative musical experience for inexperienced musicians or musicians with disabilities, and then have kind of enhanced expressivity for experienced musicians, so they could be playing the piano while having the bass auto generate underneath it, or while they're playing guitar, different effects can be manipulated using kind of their brainwaves. And I'm planning to do beta testing this coming semester, like starting this week, I hope. And then I'm looking into doing more formal research later this year and next year, depending on COVID and how everything opens up. And I have some other plans for it as well. I'd like to maybe either partner with an EEG company or another audio company, and so it's kind of along with a proprietary EEG and is a bit more integrates a bit more seamlessly. And there's another number of other biofeedback markers that I think would be interesting as well, like skin resistance, heart rate, accelerometer, and making it open source for cost reasons is also very important. So very excited to hear all of your thoughts.
Thank you, Calvin. This is quite the project. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I'm going to open this up to any other panelists. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, so take it away. Anyone wants to go first? I'm going to start it with you, Leslie. No? All right, Ketan.
Hey, Calvin, really enjoyed the presentation and, definitely some cutting edge tech. I would highly implore you to, if you haven't already looked into it, do some digging into Dr. Rafay Mehdi's research, Rafay Mehdi, Mehdi. Dr. Rafay Mehdi has been the leading neuroscience studying the effects of music on brainwaves and our muscles using fMRI at Harvard. So, I actually had a chance to meet with him a few years back, and he was explaining to me how there's many governmental applications of what you're doing from a DoD, FBI, CIA, DARPA, etc. Standpoint. And the reason being, he was actually involved in a project in 2014 where an East Bridgewater teen used music to promote peace in a warring region of Pakistan and India that had actually been in conflict for over 250 years. So the power of this tech is actually, in my personal opinion, really, really incredible, right? Because by understanding how music affects folks, especially up here and in here, you can use machine learning to create music that brings people together quite literally. So, outside of that, this would be a very hard project, I think, to monetize immediately, but the applications have massive potential. So really great job.
Awesome.
Thank you. Sorry, what was that name again?
Is Dr. Rafay Mehdi, Rafay Mehdi, Mehdi.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we're also going to be sending you all the feedback that the judges have been taking during the session, so you'll look up for that as well. Leslie, do you have any feedback on maybe the legal side that Calvin should consider?
I think when you're starting to get data, especially when it comes to biometric data, you have all sorts of privacy issues that you're going to have to go and look at with respect to this. And it's really uncharted territory at this point. But I do think it's something that you're going to have to look at from a privacy standpoint, and this applies, to everyone in terms of any of these apps that you're going and doing, but especially, you may run into some HIPAA issues as well. HIPAA has to do with, medical issues and privacy rights that are there. So I think you have to tread very, very carefully, and I would try to get some expertise on that as you go into your terms and conditions, the data that you're getting, how it's being utilized, protections that are there, and make sure that you're not violating any federal laws in the process.
Right. I mean, as it stands right now, I'd be collecting node data. You'd be training it all in the box, and it wouldn't. It's all open source. But I have looked at some EEG companies that aren't open source, and they actually charge money for you to look at your own data. So that there are concerns. You're right.
Yeah, but very, very cool stuff that you're doing. It's great.
Thank you, Leslie. Jeremy, do you want to add any comments here?
Yeah, it was a very cool presentation. Thank you, Calvin. My question would be, what sort of equipment would be required for the end user? I saw some electrodes and that kind of stuff. How do you get set up if I wanted to put my brainwaves into Ableton?
Right. So right now, I'm using the OpenBCI 8-channel EEG, and but you could, I mean, it's all just OSC data coming in, so it could be pretty easily adapted for different models of EEG, provided they give you the raw data. And then from there, if I guess Ableton has Max for Live built in, so if you didn't want to edit it outside of Ableton, you just also need a Mac. I haven't tried it on Windows, but I don't see why it wouldn't work on Windows. But you just need a computer and then a Ableton, and you should be good to go.
Awesome, sounds great. Yeah, I don't have any more questions for you at the moment. I think your challenge will probably be, I think as Ketan said, I believe, around monetization. I wonder if there's some research or government like that, sort of peace initiative could be cool. I wonder if there's other applications for it in that sense. What were you kind of thinking, Calvin, in terms of where would you like to see it?
One of the research projects I really want to that I'm planning to do, and the system currently is, so that's not going to work. But yeah, I really want to see how it functions for people who have never played an instrument before or who have disabilities, and really see how accessible it can be. So ideal, a long lofty goal would be is if you could just think of the note and it would show up on Ableton. But that's still very, very tricky. So yeah, baby steps.
Maybe there's an integration you can do with Mr. Elon Musk's Neuralink in the future. You can use that hardware.
Yeah. Send him a link
that way. Yeah, just let him just hit him up. I'm sure he's into it. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for the presentation. It was really cool demo of the product. Yeah, best of luck as you continue on your journey.
Thank you guys for your feedback.
Yes, thank you, Calvin, and thank you all the participants who are here. And that concludes our prototype pitch workshop. Thank you again for all sharing these innovative ideas and concepts with us, and we wish you the best of luck moving forward with these prototypes. Of course, a special thank you to our judges, Leslie, Jeremy, and Ketan. We really do appreciate you taking the time to join us today and providing really valuable insight for the future graduate entrepreneurs. Thank you for all tuning in, and be sure to check out the next panel. We have a songwriting workshop with Ellie Moore and Alina Smith from Lyre Music. We're really excited to dive into that with one of our students, Mallory Wynn, who set this panel up for us specifically to learn more about songwriting and hopefully learn how to write a top line process. So thank you again for all joining, and we'll see you again next year. Thank you again, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Jameson. Thank you, everyone.
Check to check, unsure what's next. Spend the days all in my head or in regret. Wish I didn't, but I do. And sometimes I let my mind drift to you. Song to song, it takes so long. I get fed up and move along. Attachment issues can't get close. Ignore the ones who know me most. Ignore the ones who know me